Hi folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, Geist the Sin Eaters for the World of Darkness from White Wolf Game Studio. This is the latest in their lines, if you will, of games. This is sort of in the same line in the New World of Darkness as Vampire, Werewolf, Mage, Promethean, Changeling, Hunter, and now we have Geist. This is the storytelling game of second chances. This assumes that you are a person who's always been a little touched by ghosts, has been able to see the supernatural a little bit or at least sense it, and then you died. Either some way you died, and then you were met as your spirit was leaving by a Geist, which is an archetypal ghost. Not necessarily Aunt Franny, but what it is it's a ghost that has gained a lot more power and has some very real spirit, which is a different thing in the world of darkness, characteristics to it. That ghost makes a deal with you to bring you back to life, to power you if you are willing to work for and interact with the dead. You come back and you do just that. So, the characters in Geist are defined by sort of their subsplat, if you will, are defined by how they died in the first place. They're called the thresholds. For example, you have the torn, death by violence, or you've got the prey, death by nature, be it animal or weather, or for another example, you've got the stricken, which is death by pestilence. Each one of these sort of colors or flavors how your specific supernatural abilities work. You are powered by plasm, that's sort of the expendable power unit that this game has. Vampires have blood, mages have mana, these have plasm. How tightly bound you are to the underworld is represented by it's sort of how well your Geist interacts with you. It's represented by your psyche. You've got your sanity stat, if you will, which is called synergy, which sort of deals with your levels of derangements. The character creation is the same. You build a mortal and then you put it through this death and what happens. The powers themselves in this are sort of fueled along a two-axis. What you can do is called your manifestation, and what you can affect is called your key. So you can affect machines, your environment, yourself, other people with that. From there, it discusses briefly the Twilight Network, which is how your subgroup or your crew in the New Orleans sense sort of operates within itself, and in a broader network you have the Twilight Network, which sort of passes information. What you're supposed to do in this is sort of deal with the dead. Ghosts that are killing people, you need to try to put a stop to, or at least help them pass on, if not outright destroy them. You also help ghosts finish off some unfinished business that they may have. The setting that they have for this is New York, which I thought was an interesting choice, that they went with New York for this. Each one of the individual lines have had their setting. Vampires had New Orleans, mages have Boston, werewolves have the Rockies, the changelings have Miami. The Geists, the seers of the dead, get New York. Probably the most interesting part of this, in my opinion, is the ability for the Geists to go into and interact with the underworld, which is of limited description in this core book, but more so in the next review we're going to be doing, which is the Book of the Dead, also by White Wolf Games. So in summary, the Geist line is the last so far of their mainline books of how and it deals with people who interact with the dead in some way, ghosts in some way. This requires the use of the World of Darkness core book and really is a standalone game. You don't need to know anything about how vampire, mage, or werewolf works to have a very effective game using this particular line. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.